Hello and welcome to our little Friday night, Friday afternoon, happy hour, if you will, Go Narrative, Power of 3D Story, Teardown stream. I love these. I love wrapping up the week, coming off a week where we've been doing fun work, solving big storytelling problems, and taking that energy into sharing with you the power of 3D story and the power of 3D story when it's applied to your homepage. And if you stopped by before, then you'll know there's always an unsuspecting victim that we pick during the week. And we do the teardown, and we share the teardown with you today. Before we get to that, though, why on earth would you want to think about storytelling on your homepage? Well, pretty simple. Visitors feel heard when they see themselves in your content. What do? They don't run away. They stick around for longer. And if they start to scroll down through the website, what do they start to think? They start to feel like they're making some progress, and they're going to engage more. They're going to keep scrolling. They're going to keep reading. And ultimately, if your calls to action feel natural rather than forced, then they're going to convert better. So who doesn't want website visitors staying around for longer, engaging more, and converting? These are some of the metrics that we all know and love when it comes to websites. But it's not just websites, right? I mean, think about sticking around for a conversation or really digging into that conversation, right? These are things that we want when we engage with people. And of course, what is converting in a conversation? Having another conversation, right? Taking the next step in a relationship, professional relationship. It's not always about selling, but ultimately we're in business to sell. And so converting can obviously be about selling as well. Now, I was much like you. Look at that. It was still on our last slide from the end of last week's. Thanks, Restream. You got me covered there, don't you? I started trying to figure out this business storytelling thing over a decade ago. And for me, what did I do when I sat down on that first day in that chief storyteller role? I was a storyteller. I knew how to tell stories, but I was, for the first time, getting paid to do it in business. Now, it was a natural transition for me because I was in marketing and product marketing and brand marketing. So the role was very much in that world. So there was a natural aspect from a professional perspective. But what I didn't have when I started that job is I didn't have a clear roadmap or a clear framework of what I was going to use. So when I sat down for that first day on the job, I went to go and try and find one, right? And unfortunately, the frameworks that I found were not appropriate. They were the wrong kinds of frameworks. And I panicked. And I don't want you to have to go through the same experience. And when it comes to storytelling in business, panic can set in pretty quickly. You've heard things about storytelling. You know it's important. I mean, everybody says storytelling is important. We all know storytelling is important. We all tell stories pretty much every day, right? If you think about it, you're probably like, I tell stories pretty much every day. And you do. Your brain has an operating system, and that operating system is story. Notice I didn't say storytelling. But your brain's operating system is story. We literally, and I love, you may have heard me say this before, but Will Storr in his book, The Science of Storytelling, has this wonderfully dark metaphor. And he literally is a dark metaphor because he says, we're all trapped in a pitch black prison. I'm reading it. I'm like, a pitch black prison? What is Will Storr talking about? Well, your reality is happening where? It's happening not out there. It's happening in here. It's happening in your brain, right? And so your skull is the prison. And guess what? Hopefully there's no light in your skull. So each and every one of us, our brain is in this pitch black prison, and we're taking in the inputs, right? Right now, you're building your world. Your brain is building the world with the inputs, the sound you're hearing, the visuals you're seeing, me, of course, in this particular occasion, as a part of your world. Your world, you're in your office, you're in your home office, you're got a bunch of things on your plate you're trying to solve, right? And you are the central character in that world. And it's not just about the world. It's not just about the things, is it? It's not just about the office. It's not just about the job. It's not just about the money, earning the money for the job. It's not just about the problem you're trying to solve for this project, this program, that product launch, this brand refresh. It's the why. Why are you doing this? How do you feel as you go through this process? Michael Margolis, a fellow business storyteller, was talking about the difference between plot and story this week on LinkedIn. We had a bit of a back and forth on that because I read it and I was like, you know what? A lot of people are going to hear plot and they're even going to hear the quote that Michael has shared, and they're still not quite going to get it. And so I broke it down. I was like, how would I explain this to a 5-year-old? Right? And it's the stuff, right? There's the things, the what, and then there's the how, the process. There's the why we do things, and we feel, right? We feel a certain way about things. So that project that you've got, right? Unless it's going a 100% swimmingly well, there might be some frustration or some anxiety. The excitement that you have for an anniversary or seeing a friend you've never seen in forever, these emotions added to that practical, tangible aspect of this world that we're in, all of that together is a story. So you are literally every day existing within a story operating system. We all are. And so when we go and chat to each other, when we go and talk to each other, heck, I even told you a mini story then about interacting on LinkedIn, right? And a part of that was I didn't quite feel that Michael was conveying what people would need to hear. And so I added to it, right? Little mini stories are surrounding us all day, every day. So when we come to communicate with other human beings, stories are the way that we do that. And we've been doing that for absolutely ever. It just so happens that the best stories kept people, remember what I was saying at the very beginning, right? About websites and all that jazz, engaged, right? If you feel like you're making progress within what somebody's saying, if it's moving forward, you keep leaning in, don't you? And so stories do that. And they also, of course, get us to stick around if we feel like we get it, we understand it, or we feel that pain, right? This is why movies ended up, books, stories, the oral tradition of stories before even written down stories, let alone fancy movies came along, These were all the things that we realized made a good story. We kept people engaged. We got them to want to know what was coming next, and they could identify, they could see themselves in that story. And so for entertainment, when you watch a movie, you feel like you're in that story. You're James Bond for that 2 hours, right? You're Luke Skywalker. You're in the romantic comedy that you're watching. You're the jilted lover or the jilter, whatever it happens to be, right? And we see ourselves, when we see ourselves in a story, it gets us to stick around, and then we ask questions and we engage. Now, kind of makes sense when we think about movies and books and even music, right? And even any form of art that's communicating a story. What about business? Do we want people to stick around for longer and engage more and convert better in business? Do we want people to feel heard and feel like things are moving forward? When somebody comes to our website, do we want them to stick around, right? So here we go. This is why stories and business are so important together. Think about your biggest competitor. Could be an individual in your office, could be a competing business in your category. Think about that competitor for a second. You've got a picture of that competitor in your mind. Okay, now imagine that competitor, I'm trying to say competition and competitor like interchangeably or something, and my ADHD brain is like short-circuiting. Now imagine that your competitor is a better storyteller than you are. Is that a good thing? If they make people feel like they're being heard better than you, if they make people feel like they can help them make progress better than you, if they get people to want more and convert better than you, is that a good thing or a bad thing for you from a competition perspective? I mean, it's a rhetorical question, of course, right? You don't want that. And the reason why you're here today, the reason why you're trying to up your game storytelling, is that you want to do this. And I know what it's like when you start and that panic can set in, and I don't want you to panic. And that's exactly why I run these little streams, is to show you how to take those first steps. Now, look, let me level with you for a second, okay? It can get pretty complicated. It can. When you're talking about a strategic narrative, competing priorities, multiple stakeholders, that stuff can get pretty complicated. The storytelling can get pretty complicated, okay? When you're sitting there writing, agonizing for hours and hours, even if you've got AI's help, it can get pretty challenging, and that panic can come back. And in those moments, I want you to come back to this conversation, and I want you to embrace the don't panic, because there is a simple first step. Now, simple doesn't mean easy. In fact, easy for you means it's not simple for me, because I've spent over a decade working on developing and building this stuff to make it easy for you. So to make it simple for you wasn't easy for me, but it makes it easy for you. That first step. Like I said, I'm leveling with you. That's the first step is easier than some of the steps that come after them. But the first step is a step that you can always come back to. And I have used this approach time and time again. And the reason why it works is because it strikes an important balance. So let's talk about that. Remember how I mentioned I went and I tried to use like Hollywood, I tried to use hero's journey, right? These frameworks are too complicated. They're too difficult for you to use as a first step in tapping into this power of storytelling in business. And they're just too much. And they're inappropriate. The hero's journey wasn't developed to help you pitch for more budget for your HR software investment. They weren't developed. It wasn't developed for that. The hero's journey is an artifact for a different problem of storytelling, for a different application of storytelling. Now, if that's too complicated, do you think there might be a opposite end of the spectrum? Yeah, too simple. This is one of my favorites. Matthew, just make sure that you've got a really good beginning, great middle, and a solid ending. Thank you for that advice. How far back do I go to before I start? Where should I start? Who do I include from the start? What do I do in the middle? Is this the meat of the middle? Is there some kind of actions taken? Is this stuff I do? Is it stuff my customers do? And then what about the end? Like, how do I finish it? Do I wrap it up? How do I wrap it up? Is there a call to action? The problem with simple is simple can be abstract, right? And if you've got, on the one hand, you've got too complicated, and on the other hand, you've got too simple, what do we want? We want to find that Goldilocks just right moment. And for us in storytelling in business, that is having something we can use, a tool, right? A tool that we can use that's easy enough for us to use, that the better we get at using it, the more we can use it and the more challenges we can wield it against. But fundamentally, it's a simple tool. And it makes me think of this from one of my favorite stories. Anybody guess what this is? Pretty obvious, maybe. This is a lightsaber, and this is the lightsaber that is presented to Luke Skywalker from Obi-Wan Kenobi in episode 4, A New Hope. And it's actually Anakin's lightsaber, and it's the one that he uses in the Jedi Temple in Revenge of the Sith. But a lightsaber at its heart is a very simple, elegant weapon. There is a blade. You turn it on and a blade comes out. Now, me using a lightsaber versus Luke Skywalker or Darth Vader, it's going to be a little bit of a different application of the tool. My usage is going to be pretty basic and pretty simple. Their usage is going to be masterful Jedi or Sith level of ability, right? That's the beauty of having the right tool. Having that Goldilocks tool, you can use it for complicated situations and you can use it for simple situations. And that is why I created the Power of 3D Story. Now, all of this, none of this is worth doing anything about or talking about. And all of this has to include the heart of the matter. And the heart of the matter is, in business, one simple thing. If you do not have a customer, you do not have a business. What is the most important thing about in a business? And no, please don't give me the David Brent or Michael Scott answer to that. It's not the employees, it's not the product, it's not about you. It's about them. It's about the customer. This afternoon, I had the pleasure of working with one of our clients and talking through the importance of one of the tools that we use as a part of the big picture of storytelling. It's a positioning and messaging framework, and about how important that step is and how important that tool and that process is for one simple reason. It keeps your eye on the ball, focused on the customer. And the same goes for the power of 3D Story. We want to start with the customer. We want to start with the audience, because the audience sometimes in business isn't your customer. Your audience as a professional can also be a colleague, a boss, an executive, a partner. So whether it is a colleague, a boss, an executive, a partner, or a customer, when you're figuring out what story you want to tell, you need to focus on the audience. You need to understand the audience, right? This may sound like business 101, marketing 101, but it's true. And it's the beginning of the power of 3D Story. If you try and tell what you think is a story and you don't have a central character who is your audience, you don't have a story. Stories aren't stories if they don't have people. So we want to start there. We want to look at what is it that our customer, our colleague wants. Have you ever found yourself going into a meeting where, at least on your agenda, is the desire to get commitment from the person you're meeting with to support you in some way in your job? Have you ever had that? Maybe it was asking for budget. Maybe it was building an alliance to get them on your side with an idea you had. Maybe it was to get information from them that you needed so that you could do your job, right? Whatever it was, you went into that room wanting something, right? And that's a microcosm. That's an example of what a lot of businesses get wrong. And as we see, and we will see today on yet another victim, they didn't volunteer, an volunteer. A lot of businesses get wrong about how they approach the world as they start with them. Imagine that time that you had to do that. And think about how you approached it. Pick an example that went well. What did you do? What did you say? In particular, if it went well. Bet you didn't go in there guns blazing. I bet you didn't go in there talking about you, did you? You probably asked questions. You probably did a lot of preparation, trying to understand them. What's their job? What are they doing? What have they been working on? What have I heard about them? Right? And that was great. You're thinking about this, you're thinking about what they want. You're thinking about their desire. And that's the first D of the power of 3D Story. What does somebody want? Their desire. And that desire can be getting something. That desire can be removing a pain. It can be removing a splinter. Everybody wants something. And if you can figure out what that person wants, you're actually starting to understand their story. As we've said, stories need people. And if you start to understand a person, you're starting to understand their story. Now, this is a really great example because as we think about writing, crafting, creating stories to go and tell, as we think about the story that we will tell as we go into that room, there'll be more than one told, that we are getting ready and we're preparing by thinking in advance about what is it that they want, right? So that's giving us a material to be able to tell stories that will make sense to them, right? Now, if I'm thinking about Sally Smith from finance and what she wants, it doesn't mean that I'm going to go in and tell her story, right? But it means that the stories that I tell are going to be stories that Sally can put herself into. If you remember earlier on when I said, if your website visitors feel heard, that they'll stay for longer. If Sally feels heard, she's going to keep listening for longer. She's going to keep paying attention for longer. And even if you were going to be telling your story, telling it in a way that resonates with Sally can only be done if you've done the due diligence of first seeking to understand what it is that she wants. And that's the first D. Now, wouldn't it be lovely? Wouldn't it be nice if we got what we wanted in life as soon as we wanted it? It would be, wouldn't it? But inevitably, something stands in the way, doesn't it? Something gets in the way, something blocks us, some threat prevents us from doing what we want to do, getting where we want to go. And those roadblocks, those things that stand in our way, those difficulties, that is our second D. So we think about Sally from finance. We've done the due diligence. We've looked at who she is, what she maybe wants, what those desires are, either real or inferred. The next step is to understand what's standing in her way. By understanding what's standing in her way, we're starting to understand the texture of her experience. And that's the texture of her story. Remember, like I said about having to have a person for it to be a story, here's the second thing that every story has. It has a challenge to be overcome. It has a difficulty. So just like I said, you're starting to understand Sally's story by starting to understand her, you're starting to understand her story even more, even better, by understanding what difficulties stand in her way. And that is vital if we're going to put ourselves and our companies and our message out into the world. We have to do it in a way that is going to show people how we can help them. Because remember, your operating system is story. My operating system is story. Every human operating system is story. What does that mean as we're going through our day? Have you ever been ghosted? Maybe. What does it feel like to be ghosted? Maybe not great. If you've been ghosted, do you think that person, the other character in the big tapestry of the massive narrative of human life, do you think that character sees you as somebody that can help them with a challenge that they have? Probably not. Now, the flip side to that is, if you've got a challenge and you 100% know that person over there can help you out, You're going to be paying attention to them. You're going to be following them. You're going to be trying to meet with them, asking them questions. And it's the same for business, right? This is why we talk about things like value propositions in business and positioning and messaging frameworks and the importance of engagement and conversion. All of these things that these vital metrics, these are all parts of storytelling. Storytelling isn't some alien thing that you have to go and bolt on to what you're doing. Storytelling has been there the entire time. Your job is to tap into that power, to harness that power. We've talked Star Wars today, which I kind of don't go a day without talking about Star Wars, it seems. A bit of a Star Wars nerd. Luke, he ultimately becomes a Jedi, right? So he has the powers. He just hasn't tapped into them yet. You have the power of storytelling inside of you right now. And you may be okay at it. You may be good at it. You may be great at it. Or you maybe feel like you're terrible at it. And if you feel like you're terrible at it, that's a difficulty. How do you get around that? Well, what was the first thing Luke did? It wasn't go and battle Darth Vader, was it? The first thing Luke did was practice deflecting laser blasts from a little spherical droid on the Millennium Falcon with he's blindfolded with that helmet with the blast shield down, and he's trying to block and parry the bolts from the droid, right? First steps. And by the end of his story, fast forward into the sequels that were made not long ago, and he's using the Force to project himself across the galaxy and do battle in places where he isn't, right? But you don't have to rush all the way there. You can start with somewhere that's accessible, but it's still the same power that you're tapping into. And the same goes with the stories that you tell in and about and for your business. You have to make sure that something is being overcome. Otherwise, it's not interesting and people will just scroll away. Now, what happens when you figured it all out? When you've untangled that knot, when you found your way through that dark forest to the other side, to the promised land. That's our third D of the Power of 3D Story. And that is denouement, which is I like to be simple where possible. And denouement is not exactly the simplest of words. And it's certainly not that easy to pronunciation. Look, I can't even describe it with ease. That difficult a word. But what I love about it is it means, the English meaning of it, of this French word, is the untangling of the knot. And that's what this is about. How do we untangle this knot? How do we pull apart the difficulty to find a way through? How do we do that? What does it take to get to our desire? And it's not only one thing ever. And this is something that so many companies get wrong. It's not just your product. You know, when I shave, I use some brand of razor and I use a shaving oil, right? And I use a washcloth and I use hot water. My solution, right? My denouement of that morning's shave is multiple things. And one of the things that so many companies get wrong is they, again, focus too much on themselves. Put themselves at the center, not the customer, not the audience, and not the character in the audience. And when you go down that path, you're not showing people how to truly untangle the knot. And you can't truly understand how the customer does it, how your audience does it, unless you've gone out there and you've learned and you've listened and you've asked the questions. So take that idea of that untangling through the morass of difficulty to get to the desire, and that brings us to all of these things coming together. And that is the power of 3D story. It enables you to see your story from all the angles you need to see it at. And this simple tool can be applied to simple stories and to really big, complex stories. But it's not a complex tool. And it's also not so simple as to beg too many questions and to become abstract. You can use this to tell all sorts of stories. And as a company, you'll be using this to tell stories on your website. So without further ado, let's go ahead and pick up our unsuspecting victim for today. The companies that we pick on have not volunteered to be our guinea pigs for the day. They are somewhat random picks that we've chosen that we know can be honestly, actually, we don't pick these because we know that they can be better. We pick them because we have come across them, we've heard about them, and we've gone and looked at their website and we're like, let's do a teardown. And we've done some brands that you may have heard of, and we'll do brands that maybe you haven't heard of. Have you heard of this company? Worldwide Technology. Now, that's an interesting question, isn't it? Have you heard of this company? Why might that matter? Well, it'll matter if you're Worldwide Technology and you are expecting people who don't know your brand to get interested in you and to maybe buy from you, right? So one of the great things about picking a brand that you may not have heard of, unless you're maybe a CIO in the audience, is that it gives us a really good example of how important doing this is. What do I mean by that? Well, a couple of weeks ago, we did Asana. Now, if you've heard about Asana and you're already aware of what they do, you're already falling into the curse of knowledge about Asana, the curse of knowledge about project management. But not everybody who goes to buy or could be a potential customer of any given company starts off even knowing about that company. So if I'm a CIO and I've delegated to somebody on my team to go and figure out how to help us do a better job of managing all of the different technologies that we have, and I've gone up to Google or Bing and I've searched for coordination, orchestration, technology, software, hardware, whatever, cloud, and I've come to this website, what happens? What happens to me? What happens to me from a feeling heard perspective? So let's look at each of our D's, shall we? The first D, remember, is desire. So if I am a potential customer, especially a potential customer who doesn't know about this company, do I see myself here? Do you? Do you see yourself here? I'm seeking help. I'm researching. I might be looking for insights or comparisons or proof that whoever this company is could be an authority and could help me. If I'm a late stage decision maker who already knows about the company, I want confidence. I'm evaluating, I'm getting down into the brass tacks of things like ROI, the details of how this company is going to fit into my solution. I'm looking for clear next steps. So if we just pick the very top of this webpage, we're assuming that a visitor, we as Worldwide Technology are assuming that a visitor already cares about AI and data. Now, granted, I could have landed on this because I was searching for something AI and data, something, and then I land here. So yes, maybe I am aware. Maybe I do care about it. Maybe I only care about it because I've been hearing about it talked about, and I'm trying to figure out how much I need to know about AI and data, and AI and data specifically. Or my CIO has told me that I've got to go and hunt it down, and I'm still learning. So what happens if my challenge isn't clear? What happens if my difficulty isn't clear? Do I see anything about my difficulty here? Because my difficulty exists, my company's difficulty exists, and Worldwide Technology sell that happy place, or the happy place to that problem, right? But am I seeing it? Am I seeing myself here? Am I seeing some kind of hook that's going to drag me in? I see this assumption all the time, and it's just like what I said at the beginning about, well, with the Sally example, right? When we go into that meeting with Sally, we need to make sure that we're thinking about Sally, not just ourselves, right? And companies do fall into the same trap that a lot of people can fall into when they're walking into a meeting. It's not all about me. So could we fix this? Is there something that we could do to fix this? Let's have a look, shall we? Maybe we could do something like, maybe we could have a headline like, AI, cloud, and security are changing. Are you ready? We could say AI is changing how data is managed, or AI has changed data management forever. Are you ready, or are you catching up? But with the example we've got here, maybe WWT helps businesses transform tech into measurable results. See how we can make it happen. If it was AI has changed data forever, it could be WWT will help you make sense of and harness this new world of data. With a call to action could be something like explore solutions, right? And there's an argument to be had to have a call to action high on the webpage. And of course, they can also keep scrolling down the webpage. And if they do, then we want to make sure that they continue to stay engaged, right? That they feel like progress is being made, right? Because if you feel like progress is being made, then you're going to want to keep going. So do we see that? Let's have a look, shall we? Let's have a look. What do I see? I see featured insights. I see featured news. How can you power the AI revolution with next-gen data centers? Enterprise storage evolution. I've got America's next chapter. I've got trending at WWT. All about me. Evolving supply chain operations. A platform and ecosystem to make the right technology decisions faster? Am I making progress? I don't know. Am I seeing challenges? Intel Optane. Optane still around? Thought that was end of life. Let's see. There's no difficulty here, or here, or here. Evolving supply chain operations with automation isn't addressing a difficulty. It's not saying it. We all know that there's difficulty in that. What about up here? Most trustworthy companies. Oh, let me guess who that's about. And, kudos where kudos is due. Well done, Worldwide Technology, for being trustworthy. Storytelling, different kettle of fish. 2025 Campus Forward Award winners, America's Next Chapter, Advancing Innovation. I'm going back up the webpage to see if there was anything I missed. I'm not seeing any difficulty anywhere. This looks like this looks like a news site from 2003. Okay, so complexity overload, too many choices. Where do I go? And what do we do? Oh my goodness. Let's click on one of these. Security. Secure altogether. Blending business insight with technical knowledge to reduce overall risk. Oh, so we're reducing risk. So I did get down to, after clicking, assuming that I'm going to have clicked, now we're starting to see a difficulty mentioned. Pick another one. Data center. Building tomorrow's infrastructure today. So this is about longevity, right? So what's my pain point here? I'm worried that my investments are not going to pan out or be utilized effectively. So maybe a headline that talks about that. Innovation thrives on an infrastructure that's not just built for today, but ready for tomorrow. Bingo, marketing speak, right? Imagine a foundation that's secure, adaptable, and designed to evolve with your business needs. Yeah, imagine it. You're making me do work. Instead of that, what is the problem with it if it's not secure? My business is under threat. If it's not adaptable, I can't change. I can't change to deal with threats. It's designed, it's haphazard. I've got a haphazard technology foundation that I can't change, that has got holes all over it and is not supporting my business. Maybe if we start there, if we're doing that, now we're starting to speak to the person that is looking at this. And of course, we can scroll down here on any of these subpages, optimize data and workloads across your data center. Same problem that we just saw above. Ever-changing, IT infrastructure backbone. Just because it's true doesn't mean you get to put it on your website. And honestly, in an ever-evolving technology landscape, IT infrastructure is the backbone of modern innovation. So Lenovo could say that. How is that in any way, like, this is calories, this is communications calories, this is marketing calories that are being burned. I'm having to read this and I'm not getting anywhere. I'm not seeing myself in this, let alone if this has been delegated to me by my CIO to come and look at. Across our portfolio, here we go, it's all about us, of AI, digital cloud, security, and more, we help align modern data center strategies with business outcomes in mind. Everybody's going to say that, by the way, business outcomes in mind. I mean, you can even say it about storytelling. From testing and designing solutions to deploying your investments global. So this is checking the boxes as I'm the person who's late in the decision-making cycle. I'm checking the boxes, I'm going through it, right? And there's a place for that in the white papers, buried on your website, not at the top level. And granted, this is into the data center overview, but this is what most web landing pages look like. Worldwide Technology, on the other hand, have got this somebody's made a decision somewhere that we should have a 2003 blog news article interface for our website here. Maybe they've got some data about people going straight to, maybe they're running their campaigns against these sub pages, these landing pages. Okay, I hear you, but is there a reason why you're not going to do a great job getting people to remember? What did we say? Stay longer, engage more, and convert better because they feel heard, they're making progress, and it feels natural, not forced. Is that a bad thing to do on the top page of your website? Okay, so we'll stick with this one, shall we? As we look at a denouement. How does the story end? How does it end? What is explore our work? So proof points could go there. See how we do it. Explore our work. Read CX priorities report. Read digital workspace priorities. So you're giving me more work to do. Again, if I'm late stage buyer, this might make some sense, right? But you have to give me a reason to do it. And you still need to connect the priorities report to why customer experience matters to what's wrong with customer experience. Create digital experiences that enable your organization to thrive. Okay, yes, that's an outcome that you want, but it's not getting my attention. It's not getting me to stick around for longer. When employees are empowered to innovate, collaborate, and reach their full potential, organizations can anticipate customer expectations, foster loyalty. Ooh, I need to catch a little bit of a breath there, guys, and drive sustainable growth. Let's try the next one. We design, test, build, and implement digital experiences that balance employee and customer needs so you can achieve your mission and vision. This is at best something that should be in a positioning and messaging framework. This is not creative messaging that you put on your website, and this certainly isn't a story. I am sorry, WT, you've really got me going, haven't you? And video's not playing either. Interesting. So denouement. Well, I wouldn't have got this far anyway because I'm not going to stuck around, am I? Learn how our digital experiences drive efficiency, productivity, and growth. The thing is with like any one of those words, what does productivity mean, right? Getting stuff done, more valuable stuff done, more quickly, more of it, right? So if you're not being productive, that's a problem. So talk about the problem. Why are your customers not being productive? What's standing in their way, right? Why do they want to be productive? Our employees want to feel like they have a sense of purpose, but they can't even get their things done. That speaks to me, it draws me in, and then you continue. When your employees have a sense of purpose and feel progress in their day job that turns into weeks and months, and it's a constant positive experience, your company thrives. But that's not happening because they are having so many problems getting access to the documents that they need. They can't even do the basics of their job, let alone anywhere north of that on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We fix that. You fix that? You just made me feel good, right? Oh, tell me how, right? And I just made that up off the top of my head, okay? Like I said, you can use the 3D story, the power of 3D story, for little stories, for quick little riffs like I just did. I used it. Or you can use it to structure strategic narratives. Now, there's some other tools that you can use with that, including a bunch of tools that are in here. But I'm not going to go into all that detail right now because you don't need to know it. I'll let you see it though. Playbook. Other stuff in there that will help you apply your storytelling, but just focus on the power of 3D story right now. And by the way, you can get the first chapter of that, which has got the power of 3D story in it. It's all about the power of 3D story at gonarrative.com. Okay, so how do they fix? How could we get some fixes in this? And I'm realizing I skipped the fixes for our difficulty. So what we could see on the home page, we could see something like this. Remember, it was AI and data. Okay, sticking them with that one. Struggling with AI adoption, uncertain about security risks. WWT helps companies cut through complexity with expert-backed solutions. See how we've done it before. The red words being those pain points, right? That you know because you've looked at the difficulties that your customers got, right? And then from a denouement perspective, after the challenges and solutions, see how it works. Interactive demo, perhaps, maybe a case study. After the proof and trust signals that we were building, talk to an expert to reinforce that trust. At every point, though, tee up the challenge and then show that you're there to help. Give them every step along the way that ability to continue that engagement. And remember, if your visitors feel heard, they're going to stick around for longer, aren't they? And if they feel like they're making progress, they're going to keep scrolling, they're going to keep watching. And if the call to actions are woven in, then they're going to convert better. And that is true for websites, but it's true for telling that story with Sally when you go into a meeting with Sally, right? And who you talk to, which could be Sally, it could be an early stage visitor to your website or a late stage visitor from a sales perspective. You also always need to be thinking about that because it goes all the way back to remember the first thing. Do you remember what it was? Do you remember the first thing that we talked about when it comes to the 3Ds? Desire and looking for what they want, then looking for that difficulty that's standing in their way, and then looking to help them through to the other side. And when we do that, when we package all those things up together, that is the power of 3D story. And like I said, it's the first chapter in our playbook. And I love resources that help show you the way. And so the playbook, the plays have got moves in them, there's examples, and then there's literally places for you to write down your ideas. There's a simple tool to help you get out of the digital world a little bit and play a bit with your pens, your pencils, different colors, and leads you through that experience. We actually use this in our workshopping as well, which is it's a really, really fun, powerful tool. And again, you can use this lightsaber of the power of 3D story, simply turn it on and do a little bit of random damage, or you can start to become more skillful and proficient at it. And of course, we are here to help, and I'm here to help. So what should you do next? Well, I want you to think about what story you are going to tell, okay? Think about a story that you need to tell. Yes, it could be work. It could be a home story. It could be a story of your day to tell a loved one. Think of what that story is. And then I want you to tell 3 people. And I want you to do that within 3 days. There's been research done that shows if you, within 72 hours, teach 3 people, teach 3 times what you've learned to 3 different people, you are X percentage more likely to remember it. I can't remember the exact percentage. So the 3Ds to 3 people 3 times in the next 3 days. 3 to the power of 4 or 5 was that. Thank you. Thank you so much for stopping by. I really hope that this little sojourn into the land of business storytelling has been a help, because that's what I love doing. I love helping businesses get better at connecting and engaging and ultimately converting their customers. But it's about helping you have a more successful business, which means you can help more people. If I can help you, you can help more people. And I love that. So follow me on LinkedIn, connect with me, interact with my posts, and we can DM. There's a ton of stuff that I love to share on this and love to interact on this one. So let me know what questions come up. Let me know if you have a recommendation for next week's teardown. This week's was actually a request from a fan, so I hope you have enjoyed that. I will not mention your name, protect your privacy, but that's the teardown for you. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day, a wonderful weekend, and I can't wait to hear what story you will tell. Thanks a million. Cheers and have a great one. Bye for now.